Today we have Nathan, a hobo from off the street I found this morning.
Ah! I like the confidence. No one's ever spoke to me like that.
Really?
You're promoted.
What's up, everybody? Today I have Nathan with me, all the way from Australia.
What's up?
What's up? Today we're going to talk about a few things involving with tattoo apprenticeships, some of the red flags that you might see being an apprentice, and also how to avoid getting ripped off. I know that both of us have a very big passion about this because we've both gone through some pretty rough periods of time going through apprenticeship for years on end.
Not as bad as like what it used to be even before us, but it still kind of sucked.
Yeah, it was not fun. This one was,
I wouldn't want to go through it again. It was pretty miserable.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah, we're going to show you how to avoid that.
Yeah.
So this is going to be fun.
So first subject is on what are some of the expectations that you should have going into an apprenticeship and the responsibilities that you might have day to day being in an apprenticeship. So with that being said, what are some of the things that you didn't really know going into your apprenticeship that kind of came up that you were responsible for?
That I was responsible for? I didn't think that I would be just kind of like a laborer.
Yeah, dude.
I did very little learning about tattooing for a long time. It was mostly like, hey, I need you to be the shop, the janitor, the customer service person. I cleaned my boss's house a few times, helped him move. I never had to wash his car though.
I had to do that, and a motorcycle. Had to wash a motorcycle, mow the yard.
No, I never got the mow in the yard. I just got to help him move and clean the house.
Yeah. Do you call it mowing the yard in Australia?
Mowing the lawn. Yeah.
Mowing the lawn. Okay. Yeah, we say that here too. But yeah, a couple things on top of that, making sure the toilet's clean. And I don't know.
I didn't mind doing like a bit of like, helping out, because that's kind of like the deal, right?
Yeah.
You got to like earn your way. But I feel like there's a point where it's just like, I am only being used for free labor and I am not getting anything out of this in return, and making zero progress for sometimes, several months at a time. Like, 3 months will go by. It's like, man, I haven't learned a thing. I've just been working for free.
Yeah. And starving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's hard to buy food when you work 6 days a week for free.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that kind of rolls into like the expectations of what you should like know before jumping into an apprenticeship. Obviously, when we first started, we didn't have a bunch of money saved up going into it. We were young. So yeah, definitely one thing I would like to put on there is making sure you have like some form of income during that period of time. Yes, you can make it, but if you are older in life and have like a family and stuff, obviously you can't go without money.
You've got to have like a
plan.
Yeah, I mean, the more responsibilities you have, the more of a financial runway you're going to need.
Yep.
Obviously, like I got lucky because I started when I was young. I didn't have to feed a family. I could live in a terrible place. It's like $100 a week in rent.
Yeah, and they'll tell you there's no way that I could go through an apprenticeship right now.
Yeah,
like an actual in-person apprenticeship, not like online, but like there's no way. I would starve to death.
Yeah, you're already pretty skinny, man. It would take that
long.
Yeah. But man, in terms of expectations, so like you're not going to make money for a while. Like that's a lot of people think it's like, I'll get apprentice wages when I'm apprentice. Like, let me just be completely clear: tattoo apprentices do not get paid. Like that.
No. Yeah.
And then I've heard urban legends of far away. One person may have gotten like a small salary while on an apprentice, but the common thing is like it's for zero money. Like
you're not sure it didn't happen.
Yeah. You're not going to make anything. And another thing as well is, a lot of people when they get an apprenticeship, a lot of aspiring tattoo artists, they think it's the golden ticket. It's just like, I have an apprenticeship, my career in tattooing,
I'm set.
Is guaranteed. You're like, I'm going to be a tattoo artist. Everything's happening. A few caveats to that, right? A lot of tattoo apprenticeships, zero structure.
Yeah.
You walk in
all over the place,
and then basically they just kind of let you hang out. You know what I mean? And you watch the other guys tattoo in between, cleaning, answering the phone, doing lunch runs, doing errands for the boss.
Yep.
Watching the counter, taking bookings, all that kind of things. They'll let you watch them tattoo. And when it comes finally time for you to start doing tattoos, no one's going to watch your tattoo.
No.
Because they're all busy in the shop making money. Yeah. So you'll tattoo unsupervised. That's what my first tattoo was, unsupervised. I never got supervised when I was tattooing.
Yeah.
And they'll look at it afterwards and they'll say, hey, you messed this up, you messed this up. Don't do that.
Yeah, but they don't say why you messed this up. You should have done this differently. It's just, you messed this up, don't do it again.
Yeah, although, if that's if they're nice,
Yeah, no, I got
although, they'll make jokes. He was like, oh, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
But
oh, look at that blowout.
Yeah, so I think it's important. Like, you have to, if you're going to do an apprenticeship, you have to be very proactive about learning still. You know what I mean? You have to push. You have to ask tons and tons of questions, and you have to actively pursue learning, because it's not going to be handed to you. The apprenticeship means they just let you hang out. Like, you can be around them, but
an apprenticeship is a chance to become a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
And along with expectations is you need to have drive. If you don't have that drive, if you don't have that dedication, unfortunately, it's not going to work. Like, it is a great career to get into, but if you don't have that, it's not like another job to where you could just go in, give the least amount of effort, and just get a paycheck.
Yeah, it's not like if you go, like, for example, if you go to university or college or whatever, if you just show up and do the tests and you pass, you get something, you get like a qualification or whatever, and then you can get a job with that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with tattooing, it's kind of like you have to constantly put effort and energy into it
Forever.
And if you don't, if you
plateau, and
the apprenticeship will just go on indefinitely until you either quit or the boss is like, hey, this isn't working out.
Or they could sign off on you, but if you just don't have that drive, you'll just be a mediocre tattoo artist forever.
Yeah.
And
it takes, you have to keep, you can't coast. You have to just keep pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not for everyone. There's some things out there that, that mindset's hard to come by sometimes. But yeah, if you have it, literally anyone could become a tattoo artist with that drive, for sure.
Well, so what I would say, like, a really important thing is when you come into your apprenticeship, because here's what a lot of people do when they get apprenticeships, right? They'll walk in and they'll just take whatever deal's on the table. Like, they'll just say, the boss will be like, yep, here's how it is, take it or leave it, and they won't say, they'll just like, yeah, great, sign me up. It doesn't hurt to ask questions. Like, when you come in and, if you get an apprenticeship or whatever, you want to go that route, it's a really good questions that you want to ask. First of all, I would, say, it's like, on average, how long typically does it take for someone to go from apprentice to fully qualified tattoo artist in this shop, based on what you've seen from your other, apprentices? And if they say a year, it's just like, okay, that's like a baseline.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But if they say 5 years, it's just like, well,
And this is specifically on the subject of not getting screwed over.
Yeah.
These are the main things.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get screwed over, these are the points.
And if they want money for an apprenticeship, there's a couple things. 'Cause here's the big thing with paying money for like an apprenticeship, right? If you say they want 5-10 grand or whatever, you could pay that money and then a week later get fired, and then like you've lost your money. So what you can do instead is say they want 10 grand or whatever for the apprenticeship, 5-10 grand, whatever it is. You can say it's like, hey, I'll give you 7,000 instead, which is more, but I only want to pay 1,000 up front.
Yeah.
And then I'll pay the rest in milestones, like when I do my first tattoo, when I get my first client, when I finish my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So then that way it forces the mentor to be, invested in your success, and it lowers some of the risk for you. Because like if you're paying like an extra couple of grand, but over the course of your entire career, like
you are almost guaranteed to get through it if you are doing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say almost guaranteed, but it just reduces the risk on your part,
No, for sure. And also, along with, now we got to talk about unpaid apprenticeships. The biggest things and the downfall with that is, yes, there are some shops out there that do unpaid apprenticeships, but it's going to be way less invested in them, because they don't have, they didn't really get anything in return from it. So they're going to let you watch them, give you a little bit of information. But for an unpaid apprenticeship, you're going to have to do double the amount on your own than you would for a paid apprenticeship.
Yeah, it's like you either pay with money or time.
Yep.
Yeah,
Payment.
Yeah. You either pay with money or with the paid apprenticeship. You know, it's a transaction.
Yeah.
But with the unpaid one, it's kind of like, well, you know, you're going to have to scrub a lot of toilets.
Yeah.
To pay for this thing. So, me personally, having gone the route of paying with time,
it's rough.
Yeah, I'd take money any day.
Yeah.
I would way rather pay for an apprenticeship than do what, because I mean the time you can't get back.
No, and money you can make.
I spent like almost half my 20s just working every single day.
And all the fun that you could have had is gone. Your 20s are gone.
Thanks.
You're old.
Thanks for the brutal reminder.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing is with apprenticeships, the hardest thing to overcome when it comes to going into work would be like the treatment and the anxiety that I remember being in an apprenticeship. Just the verbal abuse that sometimes, depending where you are, is physical abuse, and it's just really hard. And just knowing and feeling like you're stuck, which is, we'll go into that a little bit different on
let's wind it back a bit. So for everyone that hasn't experienced a tattoo apprenticeship, was, you know, at the very beginning of their journey thinking about getting into tattooing, right? Tattooing is not your typical professional environment, okay? There's a lot less regulations in terms of, like, you know, the government, what you can and can't do. There's no HR department in a tattoo studio. So things that just would not fly in a typical regular job happen in a tattooing apprenticeship. You know, like if you're an apprentice carpenter, you know what I mean? Like, and they do something, you know, messed up, or they try and tattoo you while you're asleep or something like that, then, you know, there's massive legal consequences for that, right? Yeah. So it just doesn't happen. But in tattooing, it's kind of, again, it's a little bit like the Wild West.
Yeah, there's a gray area for sure. Like you pretty much can do whatever.
Your mentor will say whatever to you. You know, they'll treat you like with disrespect or whatever, and it's just a part of the game. Yeah, and that's exactly why when a lot of apprentices finish their apprenticeship, they don't stick around. Yeah, because when you think about it, and this, if anyone's who owns a tattoo shop right now and is watching this, like, take note, because this is why the apprentices always leave. Is because when they get to a point where they no longer need the mentor, they think, okay, you know, how was I treated the last 4 years? Yeah, you know, and
there's nothing to gain at that point.
Yeah, it's just like, well, you know, I was treated like shit. And it's just like, well, okay, I'm going to bounce then. Because when you think about it, a lot of mentors, the way that they approach it is like, this apprentice owes me. I got them into tattooing. But if you treat them like garbage for years, and they, you know, give you hundreds, sometimes thousands of hours of free labor, that's not a gift, that's a transaction. Yeah. They've paid for that education with their
time is even more valuable than money. Yeah. So like, it's crazy to me that I hear some of these stories that we hear all the time in our group, and it's just,
actually, like, man, tell them the story about your wife.
Yeah. So she went through an apprenticeship and had some it started out perfectly fine, and then she started picking up on some red flags about the shop with some, like, you know, harassment and saying some sexual things, because she was a female tattoo artist in mostly a male kind of field, which a lot of people see. You know, it's not only physical, mental, but it's sexual abuse as well in the tattoo industry. And, you know, it's really important to understand the biggest problem I see with people going into an apprenticeship is sticking it out for way too long. Yeah. Yeah. So
being too dumb to quit, almost.
Exactly. Yeah. Because there are, as crazy it sounds, there are other opportunities out there. Like, I went through an apprenticeship 3 times. You know, by the second time I was like, yeah, this is not meant for me. Like, there's no way it's going to happen a third time. Yeah. And it did. So people stick around and just deal with so much terrible things and just disgraceful activity just because they believe that this is the only route. So how do you feel on that subject? Do you think that it's a big deal?
Yeah, well, I mean, I stuck around for 4 years. Yeah. And then my apprenticeship ended the day that, you know, my mentor bashed my head against a wall.
Yeah, dude.
So I got fired on the 4th year of my apprenticeship, even though, like, I was doing the same, like, I was tattooing the same size pieces as everyone else in the shop. Like, my work was, you know, the same standard as those guys. And it's like, I never got signed off. He's just like, and then literally that week, I went and applied for a job at another tattoo studio, and they put me on as a full-time artist day one.
Yeah, so that goes into finding the right mentor.
Yeah.
It's just such an important subject when it comes to an apprenticeship, because if you choose the wrong one, you're wasting all of your time with little to even maybe worse outcomes. Because if they teach you the wrong thing, it's way easier to learn something the correct way the first time than to unlearn something and then try to relearn the correct way.
I think it's important to add to that as well. A good tattooer or an amazing tattooer is not always a good mentor.
Yeah.
You know, my mentor that I learned from was an amazing tattooer. Not the nicest person to be around and learn from, but, you know, just because someone is like, you know, there might be a sponsored artist or whatever, doesn't mean that, you know, that's going to translate into, you know, them teaching you, you know?
Yeah, let's be serious for a second. Like, everyone has special gifts. Like, some people are just very good at explaining things and teaching people. And in the tattoo industry, I don't know why, but that seems to be hard to find. It's really tricky because, you know, if you're good at teaching people, you get into, you know, business or, you know, a school teacher or something like that. Tattoo artists, especially when we first started, it was kind of still looked in a negative manner, like you're a biker, you know, criminal, especially like getting tattoos on your neck, face, hands, stuff like that. So, finding the correct mentor is a really big deal. And don't jump into something before you really get a feel for it. Like, look up reviews, you know, tattoo shop, look up all the things and understand before making a commitment, because you could just waste so much time. And honestly, it would end up hurting you more than gaining.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like learning and tattooing, there's like that definitely a scarcity mindset there, because it's so easy to leave a shop and then start your own private studio. And I think a lot of mentors, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. It's like, I need to train more artists so that I can make more money in my tattoo studio. But if I teach them too quickly and I teach them too well, then they could become a competition, because then they'll realize that, because a lot of tattoo shops don't earn their keep. You know what I mean? They'll just start, all right, give me 40 or 50% of your money and you can use the building. When you can rent out a place for less than $1,000 a month, you know, and you can keep 100% of what you make. But if you're a tattoo artist and you're making, you know, $2,000 a week, then, you know, that's $8,000 a month that you're giving some guy that they're not, and a lot of them they won't supply tattooing consumables like supplies. They won't do any marketing. The shop that I had didn't even have a website. We were giving this guy 50% of our money when I was like the shop that I first started out, and everyone in that shop, we had artists that had been there for 10 years and they were giving away 50% of their money. They didn't have a website. They had never invested a single dollar in advertising. They didn't even have a social media account. Every artist had their own social media. The shop did not even have an Instagram account.
That's wild.
Yeah. And we had to supply our own inks, needles. They did supply like paper towel, cling wrap, Vaseline, like the cheap stuff they supplied. But yeah, all the expensive stuff we had to supply. It's like, man, there was literally no, like, why was everyone giving that person their money?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So it's a legitimate fear. Like the tattoo shop owner knows, is like, especially if, you know, they're not doing a whole lot for the artists. It's like, if I teach this person, they're just going to bounce and they become my competition. So that a lot of, you know, tattoo shop owners will be kind of hesitant to share what they know, because they know that there's that chance, like, oh, I could be competing with this guy in 2 years.
Yeah. And it's easy to kind of see that. If you're seeing artists go in and out, a lot of apprenticeships, like, not working, you could see that very easily. So those are one of the things, like, that's obviously a red flag. If you see apprentices going in and out of the door all the time, one or two, obviously things happen, but if you're seeing it like a monthly thing, there's probably something else going on. And another thing on that, you could also tell, you know, if like a shop owner is money hungry or not. Like, as an artist, we're very open about that stuff, right? Like, you know, we have no problem expressing when something's wrong. Now, we're a little hesitant in expressing when something works, but the things that are wrong, we're very open about. So, you know, talking to the artist and be like, oh, how's everything going? And, you know, just a normal conversation with someone and ask them, you know, simple things will kind of pull out their percentages without just coming in their first day and be like, how much are you making percentage? Obviously, they're going to be like, whoa, That's my kind of like,
I'm
trying to,
what's your social security number?
Right?
Yeah.
But in normal conversation, those things will come out and you'll kind of be able to pick up on that pretty quick. Especially the negative things you'll usually hear about before positive things. As a humanity, we're just wired that way.
Yeah.
So the next thing is like, when is enough enough? When do you throw in the flag and be like, okay, today is the day I need to leave my shop? With me, I knew it was going to happen for a couple of months, right? Like I knew that it was going to be a thing. This is when I was an apprentice, not when I was an actual artist. And it kind of made me sick thinking about like what the future holds. You know, it could be a really stressful thing. And when it finally happened, I was just so worked up about it that I just blurted out a couple of words and I was just like, I'm done. I can't be here anymore, blah, blah, blah. So the upcoming events, like if you're having problems with sterilization, huge red flag.
Oh yeah.
If they are not doing everything correctly for health code, that could destroy your tattoo career before you even start it.
Yeah, it's like how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff you can see. You know, obviously when you're starting out in tattooing, you're not really going to notice if their tattooing technique is off because you don't know you don't know any better. But it's pretty obvious if someone tattoos on an unwrapped surface, or has out of date ink bottles, or has gloves with ink on them and they're touching stuff. It's like that stuff you can just pick up on straight away.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not even the worst stuff. Like there's way more like people touching stuff without gloves on, and some of those. This is even artists, people posting pictures without gloves on, holding.
Yeah, I hate that. They'll hold the hand, they'll hold the arm out, and they're like, no glove or anything like that. That's a fresh tattoo on the forearm, and they're like, to get a good photo. It's like, you should never touch the client without gloves.
And that's another subject completely, because obviously we have a lot of emotion on that subject, so that'll be a great podcast in the future.
The reason I think that we want to do this podcast is because there are so many, like we hear stories of this all the time of, students coming into our program, horror stories, apprenticeship horror stories. They'll do an apprenticeship for a year, sometimes more, sometimes less. And they'll always have some crazy exit story house. It's like, I was strung along, I didn't learn anything. And a lot of, like the success rate of an apprenticeship, like it's hit or miss, man.
It really is.
It's like flipping a coin. So it's important to kind of know like how to avoid that and sort of not, get ripped off if you want to go down that route. And I think this is why, because this happens so much, I think this is why apprenticeships are kind of dying out.
No, for sure. Yeah. Like it's becoming a whole lot easier to, become a part of Tattooing 101 and just go through all the knowledge up front and know the pathway that you need to take, instead of just trying to figure out going into an apprenticeship and still needing to go other places to find information.
Yeah.
Like that would be the absolute worst. And along with apprenticeships dying, COVID did a lot to that.
Yeah. I think, but during COVID, like, doctors were learning online.
Yeah.
They had like online college, like everything went online. And, it's just every industry evolves and changes.
Yeah.
It's like,
and there's been a very big chain on the tattoo community for a very long time that now we have an opportunity to kind of break some of those chains and open up and be able to have tattooing go to a different way with technology and everything coming out, which is bringing tattooing into a new open era where all these negative things don't have to be in the future. That's why I do what I do, right? Because I hear all these stories all the time and it's just absolutely terrible hearing these things. So anything that we could do to make that stuff not happen anymore, benefiting humanity greatly.
Yeah, like me and Brendan kind of both did it the hard way, and it's kind of not really necessary anymore.
There's so many other ways for sure. But the reason we made this video is for anyone wanting to get into apprenticeship or going through one and they feel like they're stuck. We wanted to make this so everyone understands that there is a brighter side to all of these negative things that you hear all the time, because all we hear is negative stuff, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing too, like, learning, if you have a good apprenticeship, like one that's actually legit, it's a different experience to learning online. Some people want the apprenticeship experience, and you know what I mean? Yeah. But you just have to be extremely cautious if you want to go down that road, because you can lose years of your life if it doesn't work out, and like I said, we're not young forever.
Yeah, we're definitely old.
Yeah. You're only here for a limited amount of time, so time's the most valuable thing we have. You can't get it back. you don't want to waste it. So,
and with that being said, thank you so much for spending your time watching this video, and I hope to see you on the next one.